bitch, real plugs and connections. First I make them.
Parents of the deceased victim in this case, I believe Kenneth and Carolyn Brown, are also appearing by Zoom today.
All right, Mr. Brown, would you just wave for me? I want to make sure I see you.
A jury found a Kenosha man guilty at trial for the murder of a woman that happened last year. 51-year-old Rhiannon Brownlee stabbed and shot Charniese Brown back in March of 2021. Uring called 911 and
Charniese Charnele Brown was a 26-year-old mother of 4 who dedicated her life to caring for others as a certified nursing assistant. She was full of energy, love, and laughter, always creating joyful moments with her children. But behind her warm smile was a dark reality, a toxic and abusive relationship with 51-year-old Rhiannon Brownlee, a convicted felon with a violent past. 4 years, Charniese suffered in silence, trapped in a cycle of manipulation and fear. But in March 2021, she made the bravest decision of her life. She told Rhiannon to leave. She was finally ready to break free. But she never got the chance. Just days later, Charniese was brutally murdered in her own home, and the most horrifying part? Her children were there to witness it all. How did this tragedy unfold? And why was a dangerous man like Rhiannon given so many chances before he took an innocent life? This is the heartbreaking and infuriating story of Charniese Brown. Before we begin the story, we want to take a moment to extend our heartfelt condolences to the friends, family, and loved ones of Charniese Brown. This devastating loss has left an irreplaceable void in the lives of those who knew and cherished her. This story takes us to Kenosha, Wisconsin, is a city located on the southwestern shore of Lake Michigan, approximately halfway between Milwaukee and Chicago. As of the latest data, Kenosha has a population of around 100,000 residents. Regarding crime rates, Kenosha experiences both violent and property crimes. According to Neighborhood Scout, the chance of becoming a victim of a violent crime in Kenosha is 1 in 258, while the chance of experiencing a property crime is 1 in 100. In Kenosha, a 26-year-old Charniese Brown lived with her 4 children, ages 11, 7, 5, and 4. She worked as a certified nursing assistant at Meadowmere Southport, but her true passion and greatest joy came from being a devoted mother. She cherished every moment with her children, family, and friends. Loved ones described Charniese as a woman with an infectious laugh that could brighten even the darkest days and a warm, radiant smile that lifted the spirits of those around her. However, behind her joyful exterior, she was trapped in a toxic and dangerous relationship with 51-year-old Rhiannon Brownlee. Rhiannon worked as a driver for a food delivery company, but his past was filled with crime. He was a convicted felon with a long criminal history, including a 1993 conviction for possession with intent to deliver marijuana in Kenosha County. Over the years, he racked up additional convictions for battery, criminal damage to property, disorderly conduct, and bail jumping. In 2019, he was fined for a disorderly conduct ordinance violation. Charnie's relationship with Rhiannon was marked by abuse. He physically assaulted her multiple times and constantly accused her of cheating. In 2019, he brutally attacked her, leading to his arrest. However, out of fear or misplaced loyalty, Charniese later changed her story, causing all charges against him to be dropped. By 2021, she had finally reached her breaking point. Determined to end the cycle of abuse, she made the courageous decision to leave him. Tragically, this decision would seal her fate. Just days after she informed Rhiannon that their relationship was over, he committed an unthinkable act. On the evening of Monday, March 8, 2021, at approximately 5:31 p.m., police responded to a 911 call at a residence near 73rd Street and 16th Avenue. What they would discover was nothing short of heartbreaking. By the way, we post true crime stories and strange cases. If this interests you, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support means a lot and helps us continue sharing this content. This was the home where Charniese Brown lived with Rhiannon Brownlee and their blended family of 4 children. On the night of March 8, 2021, a desperate 911 call came in. Charniese was on the other end, crying and pleading for help. In a panicked voice, she told the dispatcher that someone was trying to kill her and that she needed help urgently. She named her attacker, Rhiannon. Her voice was frantic as she screamed that he had a gun and had already hurt her. In the background, chilling sounds of a violent struggle could be heard. The dispatcher picked up what seemed to be the noises of stabbing, followed by Charnie's terrified voice repeatedly calling Rannon's name and begging for help. Then suddenly the line went silent, though the call remained connected. Moments later, the dispatcher could hear a man's voice, angry, shouting, laced with profanity. The operator desperately tried to get a response from Charniese, but there was nothing but silence. Then a gunshot rang out. Officers from the Kenosha Police Department arrived within minutes. As they approached the scene, Rannon walked out of the house, his hands raised, completely covered in blood. Inside, officers discovered a horrifying scene. Charniese was in the back stairwell, unresponsive, her body covered in stab wounds. A serrated knife lay on the floor near her, and a shotgun was discarded in the hallway. The first floor and stairwell were soaked in blood. Despite officers and EMTs from the Kenosha Fire Department doing everything they could, Charniese was pronounced dead at the scene. Rannon was immediately taken into custody and charged with first-degree intentional homicide and possession of a firearm by a felon.
A jury found a Kenosha man guilty at trial for the murder of a woman that happened last year. 51-year-old Rannon Brownlee stabbed and shot Charniese Brown back in March of 2021. Uring called 911, and Brown could be heard repeatedly saying, "He's trying to kill me, help me." Prosecutors say Brownlee admitted to stabbing the victim at least 7 times using 2 knives. He also admitted to stabbing and shooting her while she was on the phone. His sentencing is set for next February.
The next day, an autopsy confirmed that Charniese had suffered a fatal gunshot wound to her torso along with multiple stab wounds. The medical examiner also found defensive wounds on her head, torso, and arm, evidence of her desperate fight for survival. When questioned by detectives, Rannon admitted to stabbing Charniese multiple times with 2 different knives and shooting her once. He tried to claim it was self-defense, but the physical evidence told a different story. Investigators also uncovered threatening text messages Rannon had sent to Charniese in the days leading up to the attack, accusing her of cheating on him. This was not a crime of passion, it was premeditated murder. This wasn't the first time Rannon had abused Charniese or accused her of cheating. He had a long and disturbing history of violence against women, particularly when they didn't do what he wanted. About a year and a half before Charniese's tragic murder, on October 16, 2019, he brutally assaulted her. During the attack, he repeatedly punched her in the face, back, and ribs while screaming accusations of infidelity. "Who have you been with?" The chilling words he used that night were eerily similar to the ones heard in the background of the 911 call on the night he killed her. Despite the severity of the attack, the Kenosha County District Attorney's Office ultimately dropped the charges against Rannon. Charniese, likely terrified and manipulated, recanted her initial statements, making it difficult for prosecutors to move forward with the case. This was a clear example of the dangerous control Rannon held over his victims. His history of domestic violence didn't start with Charniese. In 2011, he was charged in another domestic abuse case for using bear spray on a previous girlfriend, another terrifying act of aggression. Now, after years of violence, intimidation, and unchecked abuse, Rannon was finally facing the full weight of the law. During his bond hearing, he appeared virtually, but no amount of distance could shield him from the consequences of his actions. As the case against Rannon Brownlee moved to trial, the court set his bond at $1 million, a clear indication of the severity of the charges he faced. Prosecutors presented damning evidence to the jury, painting a picture of a man who was not only abusive and controlling but also capable of extreme violence. A key piece of evidence was a series of text messages exchanged between Rannon and Charniese. These messages revealed his deep-seated need for control, his violent tendencies, and his unwillingness to let Charniese go, even after she made it clear that she wanted to end their relationship.
This is 21 CF 274, State of Wisconsin versus Rannon Brownlee. I'm Commissioner Evans. Appearances, please.
Your Honor, State appears by Mike Gravely of the District Attorney's Office. The parents of the deceased victim in this case, I believe Kenneth and Carolyn Brown, are also appearing by Zoom today.
All right, Mr. Brown, would you just wave for me? I want to make sure I see you. There you go. Thank you. All right. All right. Counsel?
Rannon Brownlee appears via Zoom, as does Attorney Brian Rolfe, making a special appearance on his behalf. We've received a copy of the criminal complaint. Mr. Brownlee is aware of the associated charges and maximum penalties and waives its reading at this time, and we would request a preliminary hearing date at this time as well.
Thank you. All right, we'll go ahead and set that. All right, Mr. Gravely, what's the state's position on bond? I've had an opportunity to review the criminal complaint, so I am familiar with it, but go ahead.
Your Honor, I believe that yesterday the court set bond at $1 million cash. I would ask that continue today based on the now charged allegations. The court is aware the defendant is a convicted felon based on a conviction, I believe, from 1993. He has 7 priors over the last 30 years, although he has, I believe, no priors since 2000. Has some prior domestic incidences where victims have recanted and the cases have not resulted in criminal prosecution. He's been placed on probation 3 separate times, received a 6-month jail sentence on one of those 7 priors that I mentioned. Again, they are dated priors, but they are significant in number. The allegations here, as the court indicated, you had read it, have a couple of things that are of particular concern. One is that this is a violent, deadly attack that occurs with numerous children present. So this is not an individual, per these allegations, who can control his actions even in the presence of children, including his own children who are nearby, as well as the fact that the much of the violent attack and certainly the parts of the attack that appear to be the deadly portions of this attack seem to occur after the victim begins to call and is calling 911. So that deterrence for so many of our offenders in no way deterred this particular set of violent attacks. When the court considers strength of evidence in this case, the defendant has admitted that after 911 was called, he both discharged a weapon towards the victim and stabbed her. So those, of course, are the courses are the sources of the deadly instrumentation of death in this case. So from the state's perspective, the evidence in this case is very strong. This is a violent, horrific attack with children playing out in the yard nearby and a number of young minor children present. So from the state's perspective, in all respects, both in terms of any ability to protect the community and what Mr. Brownlee would do if released, the state believes that significant cash bond is appropriate. I'd ask, Your Honor, for no contact with the family.
Instead of accepting her decision, Rannon became more aggressive, making it clear that if he couldn't have her, no one else would. One of the most chilling pieces of evidence came from a message Rannon sent shortly before Charnie's murder. Just weeks before the fatal attack, Charnie's brother was murdered in Detroit, and her family held a balloon release ceremony in his memory. At some point afterward, Rannon sent Charniese a cryptic message that read, "Your balloon release is coming?" When questioned by detectives about this message, Rannon tried to provide an explanation, but his reasoning was inconsistent and unconvincing. Prosecutors argued that this text was not just a casual remark but rather a disturbing and sinister threat, foreshadowing his deadly intentions. Kenosha County District Attorney Michael Gravely, in his closing arguments, urged the jury to see through Rannon's lies and recognize that his texts were clear evidence of premeditation. Throughout the trial, around 20 of Charnie's family members and friends attended the proceedings, seeking justice for their loved one. Their unwavering presence was a testament to the love and support Charniese had in life, and the determination to see her killer held accountable. In December 2022, after hearing all the evidence, it took the jury only about 30 minutes to reach a unanimous guilty verdict against Rannon Brownlee. The swift decision reflected the overwhelming evidence presented against him and marked the beginning of his long-awaited reckoning with justice. Assistant District Attorney made it clear during sentencing that Rannon Brownlee murdered Charniese Brown because his ego and emotions couldn't handle the reality that she was truly done with him. He refused to accept that she was moving on, and instead of letting her go, he made the horrific choice to take her life in the most brutal way possible. The judge overseeing the case didn't mince words when addressing Rannon in court. Calling the murder a senseless and violent tragedy, the judge emphasized the sheer brutality of the attack. Looking directly at Rannon, the judge declared, "I don't believe a word you say. You made a choice, that your power and control over her were more important than anything else." With that, the judge delivered the maximum possible punishment: life in prison without the possibility of parole. Rannon Brownlee would never walk free again. The funeral service for Charniese Brown was held on Thursday, March 18, 2021, at Piasecki Funeral Home in Kenosha, Wisconsin, with interment following at Greenridge Cemetery. Visitation took place on Wednesday, March 17, 2021, and again on Thursday. For those unable to attend in person, the service was live streamed on Facebook. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, only 50 people were allowed in the funeral home at a time, and social distancing along with face coverings were required. What happened to Charniese was a heartbreaking tragedy. She didn't deserve to have her life stolen from her simply because she wanted to break free from an abusive relationship. It's unfathomable how a man who once claimed to love her could commit such a horrific act, and even more horrifying that he did it in front of their children. Charniese should still be here today. She deserved love, happiness, and a future. My deepest condolences go out to her family, friends, and all who knew her. May you continue to heal and one day find peace. Please subscribe to the channel to stay updated about the future upload. Thank you for watching another video of Truth and Crimes. Share your thoughts about this heartbreaking case in the comments below. We value your input. We dedicate ourselves to delivering accurate and compelling true crime stories using information from reliable sources. Take care, stay safe, and we'll see you soon with another captivating story.